Welcome to Triptych.
Three friends having a chat
about three artistic masterpieces,
making connections for modern life. Welcome to episode 6 of season 2, and it's lovely to see you, Sophie and Joel.
Hey!
It's good to see you. I like your virtual background.
It's so virtual, it's real, bizarrely enough, because I'm
okay.
actually outside.
All right, changing it up.
Yeah, changing it up, outside in a completely different county. I'm in Norfolk now. Anyway, it's very good to see you, and we've got a different kind of opening gambit this time, and we're going for our favourite pop culture moments. So I'm going to start with Sophie, because I think she's pleased with hers.
I'm very pleased with mine. So mine is a very weird moment, but I love it. It's the 2014 Oscars, and it was when Idina Menzel was there to sing Let It Go because she was doing Frozen, and John Travolta was tasked with introducing her to the stage, and inexplicably he calls her Adele Dazeem. He does it in such a weird way as well, because she was known at the time for being in Elphaba in Wicked, and so he does this weird voice where he was like, "Please welcome the wickedly talented Adele Dazeem."
Please welcome the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem.
Did she say anything?
I think she just looked slightly awkward and confused, but just started singing. But it was hilarious, and it was such a kind of pop culture meme. And you could literally, there was a widget that you could go onto where you could type in your name and see how John Travolta would pronounce your name. So I've taken the liberty, and I've done it for all of us. So I would be Sophia Kinidia. Mark Venel would be Mark Meisers. And Joel Bain would be Jen Bruin.
Wow.
Actually,
Please send me the link for this.
They're all an
This
improvement.
make no sense to anyone.
So I just love it. Every now and then I'll just catch myself saying the wickedly talented Adele Dazeem. So that's my favourite moment.
That's excellent. Excellent. Well, I'll definitely go and follow that one up. Joel, what about you?
In the 2008 Beijing Olympics, this was the peak of Jamaican sprinting in a lot of ways. We've had a good number of years, but this was a race where we won not 1, 2, 3 in the women's 100 meters, but 1, 2, 2. Because Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price won the race, and then two of our other athletes, Sharon Simpson and Karen Stewart, tied for the silver medal.
Wow.
And it was just the most amazing moment in Jamaica because, first of all, winning, sweeping the race, but then 1, 2, 2. I mean, people just exploded. It was
So they absolutely couldn't split them apart.
They couldn't split them. It was so close. I mean, they could have gone on to thousands, but at that point, you're like, okay, they're tied.
That's so unusual.
Yeah. And I think that's what made it. A 1, 2, 3 would have been amazing, but like 1, 2, 2 was like, are you kidding me?
That's so great.
So yeah, it was a fantastic moment here in Jamaica.
Well, my pop culture moment has to be just a couple of years or a few years later, 2016, and it was a public vote in Britain. And that was a year for really weird votes. So that was the year of the Brexit
It was,
vote.
right?
That was the year that Donald Trump was first elected president. And so things tend to go in threes, and this was the third of the weird votes of that year, and it was Boating McBoatface.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Which it was just absolutely marvellous. So I did a little digging on this. A UK NGO called the Natural Environment Research Council, otherwise known as NERC, was getting a brand new polar research vessel. So it was a state-of-the-art icebreaker for the British Antarctic Survey. And they wanted the public to give inspirational names for this new boat, and they put it to a public vote. Anybody could vote. There was a BBC Radio Jersey presenter called James Hand, and he just said for a laugh, "Why, I think it should be called Boating McBoatface." And
Britain being Britain.
But basically that just completely took off. And so the final vote was in April that year. And guess what percentage of the votes that got? It was 33%, and outstripped all the others by a mile. And so, yeah, it won. And this put the government in a bit of an awkward position because you couldn't have an official state research vessel called Boaty McBoatface.
Why not?
Probably launched by the Queen or something.
Yeah.
Why not?
I launch you SS Boaty McBoatface. I just don't think so.
I mean,
in the
I
end,
just don't think there's anything more British.
Well, I agree. So in the end, they decided it was going to be called the Sir David Attenborough. Because
that
obviously
was it,
that was a bit more respectful.
I mean, he's a
but
cool
their
guy,
compromise was there's going to be a little unmanned diving submersible thingy, and that was given the name Boaty McBoatface.
Isn't that more like Subby McSubface?
Joel, where were you in 2016?
I was paying attention. I loved Boaty McBoatface. And there were several spin-offs. I think there was a horse somewhere with some
Yeah, just absolutely marvellous. And I suppose that was a kind of progenitor to Count Binface in the local election in England coming quite soon between Count
Right.
Binface and Nigel Farage. So
Yeah.
we have form.
My masterpiece this time is Midnight Mass, which is a 7-part mini-series, which is on Netflix, that was created and directed by Mike Flanagan. And each episode of the 7 is named after a book of the Bible. Now, we're just going to do episodes 1 and 2 for the purposes of this. Yeah, it's an American supernatural horror series. And I think I kind of almost hesitate to kind of call it a supernatural horror because in some ways I feel it does it a disservice because it makes you put it into a criteria in your head about what it's going to be like. And although it rightly situates it in that genre in one sense, there's so much more. So it is a horror, but it's actually... that is more of a vehicle for the themes of faith and doubt and consequences and redemption and community. It's a horror that is gently story and character driven. So it hasn't got like cheap jump scares or, it has scary moments, but it's very well written and gently done. Although I will say the gore does ramp up considerably in the last few episodes.
That was an evil laugh.
Well, I'm just thinking in my head about what happened. I watch it every autumn with my daughter. We love it. So episode 1 starts with our main protagonist. We've got the deeply flawed Riley Flynn, and he's in a car wreck. And we realise that he has been drink driving and has killed a young woman that he's crashed into. And we see his devastation and remorse as he realises what he's done. We see him go to prison and he receives letters and a Bible from his devoted Catholic mum. And we see that every night he's tormented by this kind of almost like a ghostly vision of the girl he killed, covered in blood and glass and like the flashing police lights. And he's like a shell of a man. And the series really starts when he's released from prison and he goes back to the small, impoverished island that his parents and his younger brother live on. It's a struggling fishing community and it's largely centred around the church. And it's there that we get to meet the community. And again, we gently meet each one. There's no 2D characters. They're all really well-rounded, I think. So we meet like the teenage altar boys who like to sneak off island and smoke weed at night. We meet Lisa, who's the teen girl in a wheelchair, which we learn was recently when she was accidentally shot by the local alcoholic Joe Colley. And we meet Sarah Gunning, who's the doctor on the island, looking after her caring mother with dementia. We meet the new sheriff, who is a Muslim, and he's quiet and capable, and yet we see he has to suffer this like kind of subtle racism and passive-aggressive kind of stuff that's going on, largely from Bev Keane, who is she is the zealous, overbearing member of the church. She is a subtle, passive-aggressive monster. She's so well written, and I've met too many people like her in my time. And we also meet Riley's former girlfriend, Erin, who has just moved back and is pregnant. And so we meet all these people, and we learn that, crucially, the ageing and ailing Catholic priest, Monsignor Pruitt, who we hadn't met, has been taken ill on the mainland, and so they've sent a replacement to the diocese, and it's Father Paul, and he's a young charismatic priest, and he arrives as his replacement, and that's when we see strange occurrences start to happen. There's a storm, and Riley thinks he can see old Monsignor Pruitt walking in the storm, but he can't be because he's on the mainland. And then that night, hundreds of dead cats wash up on the beach. Riley's mother finds that suddenly she doesn't need her glasses to see anymore. And it culminates at the end of episode 2 with Lisa, the girl in the wheelchair, being able to walk when Father Paul asks her to stand for communion. And it's a really moving and shocking end to that episode. And alongside this, we have Riley, because it's all very character driven. And we've got Riley, who is battling with his own guilt, having returned home. And he starts attending an AA meeting that Father Paul puts on for him. And it's during that AA meeting where we have like one of the most honest dialogues I think I've ever seen on TV about the nature of evil, the origin of evil, suffering, personal responsibility, and God, that I've ever seen. And we know that something is afoot, and it is bound up with Father Paul, but we don't know what. And so it continues. So what did you guys make of it so far?
Your description at the start is probably why I would not have watched this without you, because, you know, it falls into that horror genre, and I'm kind of like, so I really want to pay a subscription fee to have somebody intentionally try to scare me. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
you know, I mean, but I can be convinced. And it was, I mean, the opening sequence was so well done. The way they told the story of what's happening right now, almost without a word. I loved that. You know, you could see just from the scene as they pan out, you see the car, you see there's a car wreck. You see the young girl's body on the ground. They're doing CPR. You see him sitting on the sidewalk. And you put together the whole backstory without them telling you anything. I thought just already from the opening, I'm like, okay, all right, you're doing some good storytelling. Again, I was struck by, just how well-formed the characters are, how credible they are. I'm not expecting that necessarily, because you think, all right, we're just setting up people to die here, so let's just let's just kind of set up caricatures and
Right.
Yeah, you talked about the overtones of racism and just kind of religious prejudice, and it's like it's right there on the surface, but everybody's trying to be polite, you know.
Yes, it's very subtly and politely done, just as it is in real life, which I just thought it was just so accurate.
And I thought just the setting of this small fishing village on an island, population 127, you're just like, okay, that's just already going to be so bizarre and such an interesting setting because everybody knows everybody. Everybody's connected to everybody. Yeah. My problem is now I have to watch the rest of it, Sophie. I have to
yes,
see where this is going because you did it so well.
I wasn't as disciplined as Joel, so I then just binged the whole lot.
Did you really? Okay, don't tell me anything else then.
No, well, I'm working really hard in my mind to try and distinguish things from the whole series from the first 2 episodes, so I don't completely mess it up. But
please, yes, please.
I was absolutely gripped. At one level, it's a sort of cliche context, isn't it? It's the kind of thing, there'd be an Agatha Christie or, just a sort of fairly trad whodunit and the sort of enclosed space, the finiteness of it. And you find out that there's just 1 or 2 ferries to the mainland a day, and you think, okay, well, that's bound to go wrong or something's going to happen with that because and so you feel the claustrophobia of it very quickly, but there were just so many things that were just odd, and I think that's partly what kept me watching. I mean, one of the things I actually texted Sophie after the first 2 and just said, why is the makeup so rubbish?
Oh yes.
Because a number of the characters had really, it was like theatrical makeup. I think that doesn't make sense for a TV show. Now, I'm not going to say anything about that, but it will actually make sense.
Yes, so there's a reason.
Yeah, totally. The thing that really impressed me about the whole thing is that this was an utterly credible community. And the dynamics of it were so familiar, not just from cliched stuff, but just from the sense of realism about how they operated, and everything's under the surface, and there's so much concealment going on and shame, and Riley's family, he's coming home, everybody knows he's been in jail, and he feels that weight as well, and he sort of skulks around, and you can tell that the only reason he's coming back is he got nowhere else to go. His whole life has just collapsed, and so that's where he ends up. And there's the sort of difficult relationship with the dad, again, which might be a cliche, but the way it's handled really isn't. I think that's what's so compelling, is that on paper you'd expect this to be just really quite pants, but in real life it was amazing.
You'd expect broad brush cliche, but it really isn't. It's actually very specific and detailed. Interesting aside, the guy that is Riley's dad was the boy who played Elliot in E.T.
You're joking.
Interesting.
Yes.
E.T. was a long time ago, so
It's a long time ago, so that's the dad.
So I hadn't picked that up. Well, that was a revelation.
Yeah.
He's looking different.
Yeah, that's considerably so. But I love the way that they have the family dynamics and the kind of the faith element all wrapped up in it, where the boy is just like, Riley is saying, I don't want to go to church with you because I just don't believe that anymore. And you see the mum's disappointment, but she doesn't really say anything. But then the dad is furious about it, and it's just like, you have to do this because like you've shamed us all, and you can't upset your mother. And then him coming to, and you feel the whole way that family dynamics around church going and faith can be when you've got non-believing members, and it's fascinating.
I was expecting it to be much more pushy, because again, If it was a sort of cheap shot of a show, it would be the kind of vehicle for proselytizing and getting all heavy about religion and stuff. But it really isn't, even though things really do revolve around that Catholic Church. The community really does seem to meet there.
I loved how faith was portrayed, Yeah,
there was a genuine sense of community there, but also darkness under the surface. But somehow that was kind of incidental to the fact that it's about a church, if you sort of mean. Maybe that we'll come back to that. But I was kind of relieved that it wasn't a bunch of caricature evil Christians.
No, exactly. Although one of them might have been. But as a whole, I felt like faith was portrayed fairly. I feel like you can see people with genuine belief and it isn't kind of questioned or ridiculed in any way. You've got different people with different kind of levels of belief and doubt, just kind of wrestling and talking about it with each other, in just a very normal way. It's very ordinary, and I really liked that.
Yeah, and I felt like a balanced portrayal of faith. I mean, and of course, it's so often, Catholic churches, which is a whole thing in film for me. But also, I thought a faithful and intellectually honest portrayal of doubt and unbelief. So it didn't feel like either was being pushed at you. It just felt like both were being portrayed well.
Yes.
And the music, the use of hymns.
Yes, right.
Just these kind of a cappella, a men's ensemble singing.
Yeah.
Sophie would like that because she likes men's choirs because she's Welsh.
That's true. I grew up hearing them. But no, I thought that's very effective, the use of hymns. And it kind of tethers everything to kind of, I don't know, the history and reality of what they're going through. And they're used to devastating effect further on, Joel, if you keep on watching.
Well, I will.
Yeah.
I will.
I was devastated.
Yeah. It is devastating, but it's beautiful.
Just one last thought I had is it really did remind me of the latest Knives Out.
Another Catholic Church one, yes.
Another Catholic Church one with a priest who's battling doubt but is authentic and real and trying to figure things out. It seemed to be not in the same universe, but it's equally honouring in a way, which is surprising.
Awesome. Well, Joel, keep watching, and I hope you'll be horrified and enjoy in equal measure.
I'm sure I will, in equal measure.
Sorry, not sorry.
Actually, I tell you what, Sophie, we should do Gogglebox TV, watching Joel watching it.
I love it, yes.
No way, no way.
For my masterpiece this time, I'm looking at an installation, which is a bit of a change for us, by an American artist called James Turrell, who absolutely has nothing to do with Blade Runner and the Turrell Corporation or anything like that. So put that out of your head, even though I've just put it into your head.
Thanks for that.
So James Turrell is actually a very successful artist, but he does really fascinating things, because what he has kind of pioneered really is to use light and lights as a medium. And so much so that you actually focus on the light itself rather than what you might traditionally assume are the things that the light illuminates. So, you know, on a great building or a monument or something, there might be spotlights looking at it, and so you can see it better at night and all the rest. But you don't think about the spotlights at all. But what Turrell is doing is saying, no, actually light is a medium in itself. It is an object. So he says photons have mass, and therefore it's a thing. So what is this thing, and what properties does it have, and what do we see when we look at light as well as through light? And I suppose one of the big things he's constantly trying to do is to get us to look at things that we thought were completely mundane or everyday or boring, and say, if you focus and concentrate and look, you'll be blown away. And one of the ways he's done this is to create what he calls Skyspaces. And there's one in Colorado that was opened just a few years ago that I want to focus on. It's called Green Mountain Falls Skyspace. And basically, I think he's made nearly sort of 80 of these around the world. I saw the other day that there's just a new one that's been constructed in Aarhus in Denmark. But this one in Colorado is basically a kind of brick-built box. I mean, on the outside, it's well made and constructed, but it is essentially just a large room with beautifully made wooden seating all the way around on the four sides of this room. So, and there's nothing else in there. But in the ceiling, there is a square cutaway around this box. There is a very intricate and interesting sort of lighting system that's all invisible to the naked eye. It's all constructed behind the seating, so you don't ever see where the source of these lights comes from. And then I guess there are sort of two main options that it offers, either with the roof space open or closed. If it's closed, then the artist is in complete control of the environment. If open, he's able to manipulate the environment of that room while leaving the sky to do whatever the sky does. And so it is the focal point. Your attention is drawn entirely to this, maybe because there's a kind of luminescent purple orange thing going on the walls, but it could be any color. So it's lots of LEDs and completely controllable across the sort of color spectrum. But this square in the ceiling, you're looking up, and of course it's constantly changing because the sky is never still. And we all know that, you know, we live on this planet, so that's our experience of it. And, you know, here I am outside and I look up, and amazingly for England, there's a blue sky. And there's the odd cloud up there. But this square limits, it constrains what you can see. And by adding this constraint, it actually opens up in the most almost magical way to something that you know you're familiar with. It's completely recognizable, and yet you're looking at it in a completely new way. When that sort of shutter thing is closed, of course, you know, it could be any sort of colors and so on, and people go in there and meditate. And actually often people talk about it as a kind of religious experience, which is interesting. Maybe want to talk about that. I think what drew me to these sky spaces originally was the spectrum, the colors that he uses, that are kind of ethereal in themselves. And I just love seeing how space can change through what you do with it, whether architecture or lighting or paintings or whatever. But then I can totally, and I've never seen one in the flesh, but I can totally imagine just, even spending hours just looking at that square of sky. Did it grab you perhaps in similar ways? I don't know. What did you make of that?
Yeah, man. I mean, it was intriguing. I couldn't decide what I thought about it at first. Part of me was like, coming from a family of neurodivergents, I was like, I would be a really great sensory thing for neurodivergent families to go and visit with all of the colours, because it looked so beautiful and calming with all of the different colours and then the sky. And I noticed they had like bookings for sunset and sunrise kind of, and I wasn't sure if that was to do with the time of day or the kind of colour spectrum that was used with the lights. I wasn't entirely sure. But I was like, that's a great way for especially neurodivergent people to go and experience something like that, because I would love very much to take my kids on a hike and look at the sky and get them to look at it, but there's no kind of beginning, middle, or end to a family hike, and so they're just like, no thanks. Whereas like this, it's like a 45 minutes of like, you're good to go in here, and this is an amazing environment, and we're going to just pay attention for this amount of time. And so I was like, that's actually a really useful tool. And I do appreciate what it's doing, is like inviting you in to pay attention, because we're so bad at doing that. We're so bad at slowing down. It kind of made me sad that we actually need to do that, but nevertheless, we do need to be invited to pay attention. And I think that's what great art does, is it pulls your eyes to the things that we look at every day and encourages you to see it in new ways. And in profound ways. And so I would love to visit one of these, to experience it myself, to understand how it feels to be in that room with the light changing and just looking at the sky.
Yeah, I think I picked up some of the same elements as you, Sophie, just in thinking about it. I mean, in addition, I thought, it's interesting how they tried to build this into the natural environment, using natural materials from the area. So this episode has me wanting to finish a horror series and visit Colorado. So kind of, divergent ideas there. But also, when you first suggested it, Mark, I assumed this would be a broad, this kind of very wide skyscape.
Oh, like a planetarium or something.
Yeah, like an IMAX or something.
Right. And then to realize, but it's this kind of small window on the sky.
Yeah.
And then framed with use of color and lighting effects. And that's really interesting, because there's a way in which sometimes that allows you to see more rather than less, focusing on a smaller space. So from an artistic standpoint, that's interesting. And I think, it probably overlaps with some of the other things that are going on in our masterpieces. Just that, focus on a small thing and see more of it. I'd be very curious to actually experience it. And Sophie, what you said is right. It's weird how we've gotten to a stage where we are so distracted by so many things around us that we rarely ever look at the sky in the first place and rarely slow down. And it's like, so you need to take me on this experience to have me walking, kind of stop doing other things, to walk, to appreciate nature, and then to sit and stare at the sky. It's like, okay, that's fascinating. Yeah.
A part of me has always wanted to really get into astronomy, not astrology, but astronomy. There's a lot of light pollution in the UK, as there is in many parts of the world. But, on occasion, one gets a clear night and you can actually see the stars. When we lived in East Africa, of course, we were right on the equator. And there, if you were up country, it was just crystal clarity. You could see everything. But it's just overwhelming. And so, like you were talking about, the whole sky, you just can't take it in. And so you take nothing in. So I think what I find so sort of liberating about this is that his I guess his ambitions are small in terms of 1 meter by 1 meter or whatever the size of the hole is, and say, right, now just look at this bit and see what you make of that bit. And of course you are looking into infinity, because it goes out to space and goes on forever. but it's just 1 meter by 1 meter, and that's as much as you can really meditate on for now. And that'll do, and that will blow you away, which I think is just epic.
It reminded me a little bit of the Pantheon in Rome, if you've ever been there, because that's the way it's built, and it's just got that hole in the center, which you can look at the sky, and try not to get rained on.
And the pigeons can come in.
Yeah. But it's like really, again, it's just like that is a very epic building inside. It's incredibly ornate. But again, seeing the kind of purity of just a tiny patch of sky above you, there's something very grounding, but also incredible about that. So yeah, it kind of reminded me, it's like a modern interpretation of what the Pantheon is doing.
I hadn't thought of that. That's good.
My masterpiece this time is a song. It's Who Are We Fooling? With a question sign. It's by Brooke Fraser. It's a duet with Matt Hales, who does his music under the name Aqualung. It's from Brooke's 2010 album entitled Flags. She's originally from New Zealand. Hales is from somewhere in the UK. I can't remember exactly where. And it's a haunting duet. Well, first of all, it's a genuine duet. You have duets that don't need to be duets, but like this is written for two characters interacting, and it portrays a married couple who are basically on the edge of breakup. And it's a pretty concise lyric. The arrangement is quite sparse. There's no percussion. It's mostly piano with some strings and atmospheric instruments. And it's really just these two voices interacting throughout the entire piece. It's beautifully rendered. Their voices, they go from kind of some unison parts, some solo parts, harmonized parts, but then kind of swapping between the melody, the male and the female voice swap between the melody and the harmony. And so they create this soaring effect as they swap parts and as the song builds. Lyrically, yeah, it's a short lyric. It's a brief lyric, but the images are so well done. The economy of the lyric has always struck me in terms of what they're able to do, how they're able to talk about the state of their current relationship, kind of where they're coming from, and tell their history without it being this ridiculously long song. So it's just these moments, these images they've chosen to say who we were and what's going on now. But I think the surprising thing for me is that, if you listen to enough pop music, you're used to a lot of falling in love songs, a lot of breakup songs, a lot of disaster songs. This relationship was an absolute disaster, dumpster fire kind of relationship, and now I hate you and get out of my life. I don't know that many songs that really paint the picture of people fighting for a relationship that's difficult. And I thought that's quite a unique thing to hear, and to hear done well, and to hear done with a realism that is not, kind of fantasy land. Oh, it will all be fine. We just love each other so much. But no, this really hurts. But this commitment is really important. And it's the fact that it hurts almost expresses the value of the relationship, and that it's something worth fighting for. Since I listened to that album, it was probably the track that stood out to me, partially because, I was getting into Brooke Fraser. I love her writing. She also writes worship music, and has written for Hillsong for many years. But then, so I think, I can't remember where I discovered her first, whether on the kind of her pop music side or the worship music side, and realizing, wait, this is the same person. That's fascinating. But then I've been a big fan of Aqualung for many years. I think he's a wonderful writer. Yeah, to kind of realize, but you guys have a duet. Oh, you guys wrote this together. Oh, wow, this is really well written. Was a wonderful discovery. I'm trying to decide how much to get into the lyrics. I guess we should get into the lyrics, shouldn't we? Because we've gotten into everything else in detail. But like the way it begins, so we're back here again, tiptoeing around the edge of the end, wondering who'll be last to admit that we're finally over. And it's like, all right, you're immediately in the scene with them, and just that picture of tiptoeing around the edge of the end. It's like, okay, yeah, we are being very careful. We're not barging in. We realize we're here, and we're trying to manage this in a delicate way. And it's like, I love when songwriters are able to communicate that much in such a brief lyric, and you feel it, you get into it. I love the way that they characterize marriage in the midst of crisis. Later in the song, they say, this beautiful tangle that's bruising us blue is a beautiful knot that we just can't undo.
Oh, that's an amazing line.
And again, just the messiness of marriage, but yet it's beautiful, and yet it's hurting us. Yet we can't just dispose of this. It ties us together. It makes us who we are. Yes, I really have loved this song, and other people have loved it because I have loved it. And yeah, so what do you guys think? Sophie, you look like you're ready to burst into tears.
Yes, that's why we've left this to last, because we can't hold it in.
This could get messy.
It's heartbreaking.
It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah, I think, and one of the things that really makes it heartbreaking and sort of ratchets it up is that it is beautiful.
Yes.
Lyrically and musical, it is a beautiful song and fragile.
So beautiful.
So when you're first listening to it, you're thinking, is that piano a bit out of tune? Is it a honky tonk? And is it maybe not a bit amateurish and stuff? And it absolutely isn't. But it just compounds the sense of fragility to this, that you're kind of in there with them, but you're sort of willing them to keep at it. So it's both the combination of subject matter with just musical soaring beauty, and the performance. I mean, it's beautifully sung.
I mean, that's my kind of favourite music, though, is music that's not overproduced. You know, I really like a kind of sparse kind of reality to music. It's some of my favourites. So I'd forgotten about Aqualung. It's terrible. I used to listen to Aqualung loads in university and loved them. And so I was really happy to discover Aqualung singing with Brooke. You say there's not many songs that deal with the kind of fight in the relationship. Now, Joel, I'd like to say that you've clearly never heard Fight for This Love by Cheryl Cole. So I'm just going to...
No, I haven't heard that one.
And I wonder why that is.
No, I need to watch the rest of a horror
really
series.
Don't.
Listen
You
to
really
Fight for This
don't.
Love by
You
Cheryl
do,
Cole.
actually, Joel. I don't think you do.
No, you
Okay.
really don't.
Okay,
But you could
thank
listen to U2's song One, which is right in this
Yes.
space.
Okay, right in the genre.
Yeah. But you see, again, I think we're cherry picking here. There's you could just run this long list of horrible disaster breakup songs and the falling in love, the effervescent. I just kind of feel like there's not much that's really grounded and real.
No, this is like, yeah, it's a real masterpiece on like the harder side of marriage and long-term relationships and that mutual struggle, that beautiful tangle that's bruising us blue. I really love the lyric, like, real love is hard love. You know, it's not about the effervescent feelings, but it's about the kind of choice. And and the kind of as they go through the song, as they realise they are at the end, but arm in arm, they decide to turn away from the end and keep going. And I kind of can't decide if that's deeply beautiful or if it's just a bit resigned and sad and they need to let it go. So I'm undecided about how I feel about it, because yes, there is a beauty in just not being willing to let go of something that you've promised, you've covenanted to. You see the beauty of wanting to work at something, and there is good in that. But also, I'm like, is it a kind of a glamorizing of like just grim acceptance? Because like, I don't know, it feels like it's on the edge of like, is this good for you? Are you just kind of well, what else do we do? Well, there we go. We've married each other. We're tethered. So, well, there we go.
Can I push back at that a little?
No, please, please.
Thinking once we're untangled, we'll be better off.
Yeah.
But it's these failures and faults that hold us together. I think there's a sense in which they've recognised that that isn't true.
Yes.
And that's why they're sticking at it. So it's not just complete resignation. It's saying, okay, it probably is better if we stick at it. And that's why we're going to. And we'll both be better for that.
And I think the mutuality of it is important too. Just the fact that you're hearing both voices kind of wrestling and reaching that same point of saying, hey, let's keep at this. And I think in particular, in a world that assumes that ending marriages, that divorce leads to happiness. You know,
which is,
just wrestling with the fact that, look, there's no pain-free route here. There's no option where this is going to be easy. I appreciated that realism because, again, sometimes in church spaces, you can kind of make it trite and say, no, this will be great. You'll feel great.
Yes.
This will be wonderful. And I didn't feel like they were dumbing it down in that way and just kind of, this wasn't a naive decision to keep going.
That's what I'm wrestling with, because I agree that I think church spaces can do two things. They can do the trite, oh, it's going to be great. And so when marriage is hard, you feel like, oh, is this not working then? Or it can also have this thing where they're like, marriage is supposed to make you holy, not happy, thing where they kind of are encouraging people to kind of suck it up, just like push down like obvious faults and obvious things that need to be worked on and acknowledged. And just kind of, because, it's all about your personal holiness. And I'm like, no, we should also enjoy being married as well. So, so I'm just like wanting to encourage people to keep working at what is difficult.
That's why the better off thing, I think, is so important.
Yes.
That's what's holding them. They know, even though in the moment or even in this season it's tough, they do know deep down that actually, no, it is better. But I think the crucial thing that, you've both picked up on, and I think this is what is so special about this song, because I didn't know it, and I've never listened to Aqualung before. Joel
so
has
gorgeous.
talked about. And I think we've talked about realism in art stuff a number of times in recent episodes. But I think what really brings that home is complexity. If something is real, it's going to be more complex. You can't just sort of have neat categories and trite labels and sort of simple solutions. So the more real something is, the more uncategorizable it is, and perhaps even unique. So it's the Tolstoy thing. Everybody happy in the same way, but their marriages are miserable in different ways, unique ways, or whatever. I can't remember the line. Anyway, you get the idea. And I think there's something very generous and affecting about the way they've written this for that reason.
Although I think, I'm going to say again, I think it's a romantic realism, because in this, it's deeply thoughtful. Mark's pouting. It's deeply thoughtful, and it's deeply beautiful. And you've got two people that obviously care very much about this outcome, which is why they're wrestling. And so I think that's a romanticized realism, because the reality is that when marriages come to an end, one person's checked out a long time ago.
But neither of these guys have they?
No, they haven't, which is why I'm like, these guys are in the fight. And I think that is going to work out, because they're recognizing that there is no pain-free option. But yeah, I mean, I love it though. It's beautiful, and it's heart-wrenching, and I love it. But I think it's just such a thoughtful portrayal that I believe that thoughtfulness is not what is represented in some marriages.
Oh, that's certainly true too. Yeah.
There isn't that thought. There is just a kind of checking out and acceptance of mediocrity. But I loved it.
What have we got? We've got a box in which you stare at the sky. we've got a song of a couple kind of breaking up. I mean, Sophie thinks they totally are, and she's a cynic. And we
I don't think they are.
Okay,
You're
just
misrepresenting me.
Wait. I'm summing up so that we can start our conversation. That doesn't mean you can start yet. And then we've got 2 episodes of some gory horror thing on Netflix, episodes called Genesis and Psalms. So this is really quite a bizarre combo.
Yes.
What on earth are we going to do with this one? Now, Sophie, you may talk.
Well, I just didn't appreciate that misrepresentation of my point of view. I didn't think the couple were going to break up. Also, I didn't appreciate you calling Midnight Mass some gory horror thing on Netflix.
So we've begun with the misrepresentations then.
Yes, gross misrepresentation. Oh, goodness.
I keep thinking, as I think of all 3 masterpieces, about framing and how much framing affects the way you tell your story. So with Who Are We Fooling, that song would have been very different without the sparse arrangement, without this gorgeous melody. You know, if that melody was significantly different, it could have felt like a much sadder song than it was. I mean, it's a heart-wrenching song, but the beautiful melody fits the lyric and kind of the journey the song is taking you on. Even the color palette, for example, in Midnight Mass is fascinating. Just the muted tones, the choices of clothing, it creates this bleakness that you feel like situationally everyone is living through, whether it be Riley carrying his grief and guilt, or the whole town just kind of depressed after this, in the aftermath of this oil spill, which has affected their livelihood, and then the economic situation they're in, and then the Skyspace and just the framing.
Very literal frame.
Yeah, it's literal framing now, and how he's going to use color to highlight this section of the sky. And it's just, the sky is there all the time, but now he's framed it in a way that allows you to see it differently. And I think all of these masterpieces are framing very deliberately to allow us to stare at something and see it in a certain way.
Yeah, I was thinking along similar lines in terms of each of them, is inviting us to pay attention to the smaller kind of things. And again, like that's to do with framing. It's kind of like each one is considering subtraction and what that means. In the song, they're considering what subtraction would look like if one of them was to step away, or they were to both step away, or does it make sense for them to both keep going? In the art installation, like, again, you've got that framing and the deliberate choice to only have a small section of sky visible. We're not showing you the whole thing, but meditate on this. And then within the Midnight Mass, you've got kind of the considering subtraction on many levels. So you've got Riley seeing the kind of devastation of his own consequences and subtracting a life. We've got the kind of subtraction of like prosperity from the whole fishing community, and they're dealing with kind of loss and smallness, and the whole setting of Midnight Mass, it is in this enclosed small space. We're not dealing with a huge amount of people. We're dealing with a small community, dealing with small life problems, which are still infinitely relatable, because I think the small things are the universal things, aren't they? And the more specific we get, the more it actually relates to everything.
How about taking the word fooling and the sense of perception and people getting the wrong idea or getting a delusional or illusory idea, so that obviously the sky space is itself an optical illusion. So when you're in it, it kind of makes the sky into a work of art with a border, with a frame like in a gallery. And so you're looking at something almost as if it's a fiction and an artwork by itself, except it's not. All it is just a whole. The way it's constructed creates this sort of illusion. In Midnight Mass, there's so much going under the surface, and again, I don't want to spoil plots, but
Yes, please.
Actually, there's
Don't do that.
trust me.
Okay, all right. I'm good.
There are some things and ulterior plans and schemes, and people are concealing stuff, and people are getting conned. In the song, what I think is so interesting about this is that the chorus is "Who are we fooling?" The implication, even though it's just two people, if you like, in a room privately, there's kind of an acknowledgement that other people can tell things are wrong. So in the first verse it says, wondering who will be last to admit. And it implies that other people have come to that conclusion themselves. And it's that these two are the last to say this is not going anywhere. So there's a kind of genuine versus mask thing going on here.
The intricacy, I think, of all three is, as you're pointing out, Sophie, is in the details. It's the small details. It's, in the song, the small turns of phrase. It's the details of relationships that bring the texture to this tone and the people there. It's you're seeing the moments, even in people's facial expressions of individual struggle. Like when the sheriff, things are being said about him, and he's kind of like, you see him reacting, but he's not going to say it out loud. He's going to continue. He's going to try to do his job well.
I really like the sheriff. And as it goes on, I just thought an amazing character and really unusual on American TV, to be fair.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've watched further than I have, but from the little I've seen, I'm like, okay, this is fascinating because this is clearly a man of integrity who's in just this unfortunate situation where these people have stereotyped him in a certain way. But again, just the details, kiss your mom goodnight, and you realize, oh, he's lost his wife. There's so much just heft, emotional heft in little details. And I think we feel that in a certain way in all of these masterpieces.
Yeah, there's a kind of like a deftness and a delicacy that makes us feel such strong emotion. And it, in other hands, it could be broad brushstroke and it could just be cliche. I mean, like we've talked about that with Midnight Mass, the fact that it's got the elements of what could be like a really rubbishy horror. We've got an enclosed space, you've got various people coming back, someone who's murdered someone, and it's all a bit like here we go. But it's not. It's beautifully realized, it's beautifully told. And like the same with the Who Are We Fooling? I loved the lyric, it's funny how sad the funny things get as we get older, which is, again, it brings this kind of like nostalgic element that we all recognize. But again, it could be a cutesy indie meet cute song. It isn't. They bring out the nostalgia and the sadness that we all recognize when you've been in a long-term relationship and you see how things have changed. So yeah, I kind of like the deftness with which that they both kind of did that.
Is there a sense with that age that maybe they were a bit too young somehow?
Yeah.
It certainly adds to the sense of fragility that I think the whole song conveys. Because you do ask that question, like, okay, wait, was this built well? Were you guys ready for this? And but it makes you wonder at a backstory that's not told in a certain way. But it adds a detail that's really interesting.
It's three-dimensional, isn't it?
Yeah, the effervescence of young love, and now those funny things just have become sad. But again, that resonates with people. I think your marriage doesn't have to be a disaster for you to realize that memories kind of curdle in this way that you didn't expect them to as you go through difficulty.
Totally, because it's just the nature of being human. We collect wounds as we go on.
But also the happy things and the funny things have a melancholy later on because
yes, they do.
You realise how far you are from those moments.
Right.
So if you're in a bad place, it's actually painful to remember how much you laughed before.
Yes, right.
And you think we don't laugh anymore, or we whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's acute.
I feel the same way about the art piece in some way because it's one of those things that when you spend any time looking at the sky, it brings you back, I find, to a childlike state, because that was the last time I used to do that properly, just lying on the grass looking at the sky.
I can imagine you doing that as a child.
I definitely did.
With Lionel Richie there with you.
And
exactly.
Lord Byron.
Yes.
All of them gathered around me.
Your caregivers in your childhood.
Exactly, that's what I was raised by. You know, and it brings you to a childlike state, but also you can't help but look at the sky without feeling, you get this kind of euphoria of seeing the greatness of it, but then it also turns to a kind of sadness because you feel so small and insignificant in the light
Or
of
even
it.
threat.
Or threat, you know, there's just so much at play that human emotions just turn and turn and turn when you're faced with anything.
That idea of memory and just melancholy is so much a part of Midnight Mass. You're just picking up these fragments of the relationships from the past and the histories
what things
which
used
make
to be
people
like.
which just make people so sad when they look at where things are now. Who is it? It's what's her name? Riley's girlfriend from
Erin.
Erin, just
Yeah.
every time her mother is raised, you know, just the subject of her mother's, and she talks about everything around me reminds me of her. You know, everything around here reminds me of her. That idea. But like the way people perceived her and the way she was kind of loved by the community versus Erin's experience of her as this alcoholic mother. And, you know, you multiply that over the characters, the doctor and just her not wanting to be there, but needing to be there for her mother, you know, and it's just like, yeah, there's so much memory here that's a part of the pain, you know, of this community.
Yeah, and what do we do with it? Do we keep going with it, or you know, do we break away in some way? You know, it's all of the characters are kind of wrestling with that.
And those that have fled to go and make a life on the mainland and then come back, a number of people don't understand why they've come back.
Right.
Because of course you'd want to leave. Obviously, family members. So Riley's family are delighted he's come back, but. I guess there's a sense for both Erin and Riley to come back is a kind of failure.
Right.
They didn't make it, and so they're back in this hole.
There is this kind of like, nostalgia and memory, and is it a failure to keep going and keep trying at something that has failed in the past, or is that a beautiful thing, you know?
You're still not decided, are you, Sophie?
Wait until next episode when Sophie makes up her mind about
So
this.
we might have a little addendum at the beginning of episode 7. Has Sophie
When Sophie's
made up her
figured out
mind?
how she feels.
I don't know.
I like it.
Because I think we're running
should
out
do
of
that.
time, and I don't want to press her into coming to a conclusion at this stage, because I don't think that would be fair.
We should definitely tag back. So, Sophie, how do you feel? Having a few weeks having passed to think about these things.
Well, I've talked about it with my therapist.
But that's why we're here. Okay, well, look, I think we do need to draw things together. Sophie, I'll go to Joel first, so you've got time to make up your mind.
Yes, do.
Joel, what's your last word?
I'm just thinking about the process of creation, the process of art making. And we've seen it sometimes with paintings that the frame makes such a difference to how you see the painting. And just, how you decide to tell the story you're telling. I think we're feeling that in all of these masterpieces. And it's quite a remarkable thing to see that and how much of a difference it makes. The use of music in Midnight Mass and even the use of silence in it. And just how these things now add to the story you're telling. Arrangement in who are we fooling, and again, obviously, physical arrangement now with the Skyspace. So it's fascinating just to see how much story has so much to do with the way you mount it, the way you frame it.
Wonderful. Sophie? That was a guilty giggle.
Have you had enough time?
No. But I think all three of them, they're telling us to pay attention and that the small things are the main things. You know, I know the sky is vast, that sort of small thing, but the little slither we're seeing is a small area, and it's inviting us to kind of go into the detail of life wherever and keep pushing into that, wherever that is.
Yes, I love the smallness. I think the restriction is the power to each of these things. So the restricted canvas, if you like, actually opens up a whole world, and that's fascinating and compelling, and makes you want to spend more time there. And it's so interesting to see that in such fundamentally different expressions. In some ways, just a box with a hole in the roof couldn't be more simple and yet different from a complex TV show. And yet there's something that we are seeing because of that narrower canvas. I think I think there's a lesson for us all.
Yeah.
To put it that way. There's a moral to these stories.
I haven't decided.
Have you decided?
I haven't decided whether there is or not, but
okay.
Why not?
That's appropriate. That
okay,
fits.
well, so folks, if you would like to come back next time, I think I'm coming back next time because I just actually want to see what's going on in Sophie's head. So that'll be good. But next time, our plan is to think about the film 1917, directed by Sam Mendes, the song Stay by Abraham Alexander, and a poem by Wendell Berry called Do Not Be Ashamed. And updates on Sophie's conclusions will be forthcoming. Until then, that's goodbye from me.
It's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from me.
Bye.
Bye.
That was Triptych, hosted by me, Mark Mennell, with Joel Bain in Jamaica and Sophie Kiddingley in the UK, with tech and editorial expertise from Owen Feetham. Visit our website at triptychpod.com, that is triptychpod.com, for episode show notes, background information and various links. Please do get in touch with any questions, comments and even suggestions for future episodes. And if you've enjoyed this, please do share it around and rate us wherever you get your podcasts.